I know. Brian Urlacher? Overrated. You can't think of no more 54.
Wasn't that same guy I'm thinking about, Urlacher. Initially I thought you said Zach Thomas.
Nah.
Because he was 54, right? For Miami?
54, 52.
What number was Zach Thomas? That's who I was thinking.
That's a good question.
And then you said Urlacher, and that's who I was thinking about. But I said, he was talking about Urlacher.
Yeah.
But I was thinking you were talking about Brian.
Brian, let me see.
Yeah. I can't remember what his number is.
My memory done got bad too.
Zach Thomas, rather.
Zach Thomas.
Man, I got
54.
Yeah. So that's initially when you said 54 and you said Brian Urlacher, I was thinking Zach Thomas.
Okay.
But then I was thinking, well, when you said, well, what's another number 54? Urlacher came to my mind, but I was like, well, that's what he said.
I'm gonna tell you Zach. At least I seen Zach in person.
And we got a former Miami Dolphin here, so he's on the right. Let's do it.
Here we go, guys. Welcome for another episode of the Pitch and Pint Podcast. I got a very, very, very special guest in the building, Mr. Sammie Smith. We'll talk a little bit about Mr. Sammie a little later, just to let y'all get to know him. But episode 54, we done interviewed Zach Thomas, ex-Dolphin, you know, Dolphins like but we gonna roll with it because we got a Dolphin in the house on, hospitality.
Yeah, you gotta show some respect, man.
Episode 54.
54. All right.
We got this young man. I know you like me to hear him say young. You know what I'm saying? Young man out of Apopka, Florida. Apopka. I never knew where it was until I heard about Edgerrin James, right? Edgerrin James.
No.
Edgerrin James, hold on.
No, get it right now.
Hold on. It's another one with some goals.
Get it right
Warren
now.
Sapp, man.
No, not Warren.
Well, Warren Sapp is he went to Apopka High School.
Edgerrin
went to, I think he was from Immokalee. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, he not from Apopka. He went to Apopka High School.
Yeah. I'm from a little corn town called Zellwood. And Warren Sapp is not from Apopka either. He's from the town next to Zellwood called Plymouth.
Okay.
So we from little country towns, man.
So was that just like the one high school that everybody went to because it was close? Or?
Yeah, at that time, it was the only high school in that part of Orange County. And so we got all the talent from really like the borderline of Lake County, which is where I live at now in Mount Dora. Tangerine, all those little areas, those kids went to the Apopka High School, and so they were able to pull from a vast little pockets to get some really good players there. Now they got another school there, Wekiva High School in Apopka, and it's kind of messing up the order. Yeah, taking some of the good athletes from the area that are going there and playing and running track and playing basketball. So it's making the coaches at Apopka have to work a little harder now. Absolutely.
So when did you first start playing football? How old you was?
Man, I started playing football. I tried to play with this little organization called Green Wave when I was in about 6th grade, but they had a weight limit. And I weighed too much. I wasn't like a fat kid, I was just a big kid, and so I couldn't play with Green Wave. So my first, round of football would have been in junior high school, my 7th grade year, where I played organized football.
Okay.
I started playing sandlot football, man, on the streets of Zellwood when I was probably like 10, but organized football would have been my 7th grade year of junior high school.
Okay. So you're saying you started in high school, so now you see the landscape of Little League football. We got them playing at 5. Do you feel like 5 is too early, or how do you feel about starting?
Well, I had a son that played when he was 5, but we taught him well, and I think at the end of the day, if you can teach the kids the proper techniques of tackling and take tackles and try to avoid the head injuries, then you can start them young. But you got to be real particular about making sure that you protect kids and teach them how to play the game right. When I grew up, when I came up, man, even like I said in the sandlot football, we used that head.
Yeah.
That head was a weapon.
Yeah.
And then now, we find that, man, that head is a weapon that we shouldn't be using.
For real. And it made me think back to when we played, and they got so much information on concussions and stuff now, and it's like, man, we probably had so many concussions back then.
Yeah. Well, Pooh, I'm dealing with some that I had even as a Dolphin player.
Yeah.
That they didn't diagnose concussions and stuff the way they do now. So you get what we thought was just a stinger, or
Yep.
seeing stars, and you get back out there and you play. And I can remember a few games where, man, I was out there playing, didn't know what was going on, and having to ask my fullback what was the play,
Man.
And we talk about that some now. Me and Tony Page, he was my fullback, and my career took a turn for the worse, and a lot of people don't know it, but it, in my opinion, was because of concussions. I played in a game where the first fumble in Kansas City, I was playing out there concussed, and nobody really knew it until we got back, after the game, and got back in Miami and got diagnosed. And then I played the next week, which I shouldn't have been playing.
Wow.
Yeah, but
Wow.
so things are better now for the players. They're protecting them more, and hopefully being able to have players have longevity and long lives that they can live and not have problems down the road.
Yeah.
All right, so we didn't formally introduce my guy. This is Sammie Smith, Florida State. Played football at Florida State. He was a ninth pick in the first round and went to the Miami Dolphins. So he played with Coach Prime, which is a Hall of Famer, and he played with Dan Marino, who was a Hall of Famer, and he was coached by Don Shula, another Hall of Famer.
And Bobby Bowden.
Bobby Bowden, exactly. So we talking about a guy that's been around football, real football minds, guys that know what they're doing, and guys that competed at a high level and was good at what they did. So for him, like I said, we think about now, ninth pick is a big deal. So to be able to come from Florida State and go ninth pick, to go to the Dolphins, and you're from Florida, so how does that feel coming back home to play? Because I know you're still in Florida, but Tallahassee is a good little, little ways away.
It's a big difference. It's really two different worlds, from Miami and Tallahassee and Central Florida. But man, it was a dream come true. Every kid that plays in the state grows up, watching the team that play in the state. I was a huge Don Shula fan. I enjoyed watching Tampa also play. If I had to choose a team that would have been outside of the scope of Florida, I was an Oakland Raiders fan. But it was a dream come true to be able to go down and play for Miami and play with Dan Marino. And then I had a good friend that got drafted the same year, first round too, Louis Oliver, that played for Florida. We competed against each other. And so I was just excited, man, to have that opportunity to go and stay home and to be able to play locally.
How was life going to Miami? The nightlife, was it crazy? Was it, was you one of those guys that stayed inside and didn't let it bother you?
Well, I wasn't much of a partier. I did the partying scene, in Tallahassee, the campus parties and stuff, but I was never really a club goer. So that didn't change much. I mean, the nightlife and living the fast lane was something that I didn't relish. Going to Miami, I really just wanted to play football, man. And I was a young guy that had a wife and and a kid, and to fast forward, I lost a son while playing for Miami to SIDS, a 2-month-old baby, and so I just really wanted to come and compete and to try to make Miami a good football team, to do my part. And, so the nightlife was never really a problem for me.
And I know we kind of skipped around, you know, we hit the fast forward button a little bit, but I kind of want to go back to like high school, and you know, I'm pretty sure you was recruited by a lot of different schools. You know, you was a track star, football, you know, football star. So what was going into your thinking of like choosing which school you wanted to go to?
Well, you know, I was one of the top offensive players coming out
Mm-hmm.
my year, probably the top running back in the country. So I could have gone to college anywhere. I had three schools that were my favorite um, for whatever reasons they may be. I was a huge Michigan fan. I loved Bo Schembechler.
Okay.
And then we had a local kid from down here, Anthony Carter, that was playing for Michigan. And then we had another kid, a running back that they transitioned to fullback, Gerald Wright,
Okay.
that was from Titusville. And then I was, of course, was a huge Georgia fan with
Oh, yeah.
Herschel Walker during that same era.
Definitely.
Got a chance to meet Herschel a few times and was recruited really heavily by Georgia. And then Florida State, man, I started going to Bobby Bowden camps as a ninth grader. No, I take that back, as an eighth grader. I went to Bobby Bowden camps like 4 or 5 years, you know, in a row. And so I got to know those coaches there. Got to know Coach Bowden, got to know the city of Tallahassee, which we would call it a city,
Yeah.
even though back then it was just a rural place. But man, I fell in love with Tallahassee and the coaches there, and you know that was really like my top school. So coming out my senior year, even going into my senior year of football, Florida State was leading the way, and I probably knew all along that that's where I was going to go.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotta take the visit.
I took an unofficial visit to Florida, which was only an hour and 30 minutes from where I lived, and I had 5 high school teammates that was at Florida at the time. I had my quarterback and receiver from my junior year. They were freshmen at Florida. You know, the year that I was, you know, coming out,
Mm-hmm.
and then I had 2 offensive linemen that were there and a tight end. So, you know, I had kids that I played with in high school that was part of a Popkins program that was at Florida. But, you know, when I decided to go to Florida State, I took 2 of my teammates with me
Okay.
from Apopka. So we wanted to change that narrative. We want to get some Seminoles out of Apopka High School.
Yeah.
So Apopka was at the time was spitting them out. D1s.
They were, and you know, I was talking to someone a few days ago, and you know, I think it's pretty miraculous, man. You know, that we're not like in South Florida, which I'm sure, you know, down in Miami, there's probably some schools that have churned out, you know, 7 or 8, 9 first rounders.
Oh, yeah.
If you look back over the history, but at Apopka, I think we've got 5 or 6. You know, and then we got one that's a Hall of Famer, like I said, in Warren Sapp, and we got another one playing right now that if he keeps playing like he playing for another 10 years, he definitely would be in that Hall of Fame too. Jalen Carter, that plays for Philadelphia.
Oh, he he went to Park?
Yeah, he went to
I didn't know
Poplar.
that.
He's an athlete. He probably could be the best one to ever come out of there and play. He's a great football player.
Definitely.
They had Merriweather that played down in
I remember
Miami.
Brandon. Yeah, I remember him.
Was the first round. And Aaron Jones played with me. He was a year ahead of me.
Okay.
In high school, he went to Eastern Kentucky, and he was drafted the year before me to Pittsburgh in the first round. So I think we've had 5 or 6 first rounders out of there.
Okay.
And like you said, to not be in the city,
Mm-hmm.
to be in the rural. I mean, you might have like Belglade.
Yeah.
Belglade, Pahokee will be another one that's in a
Yes.
small area that was pumping them out.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that's pretty cool. So now you're at Florida State. I mean, we love us some Coach Prime. Was it a prime time effect while he was there? Like, what was the buzz like while he was
Well,
there?
we were freshmen together, man. I actually just did a interview for NFL Films for Deion. They're doing a documentary. I'm probably spoiling some. But they got a documentary coming out on him, I guess, sometime maybe during football season. And we were freshmen together.
Okay.
And, you know, I tell people Deion wasn't highly recruited. Like, people would ask, well, when did you first know of Deion? And the first I knew of Deion was when we played in the Florida Georgia High School All-Star game, the first one ever. He was a kid that came there, man, that just was talented. He played quarterback in high school. In that Florida Georgia game, they had him playing receiver. So what I saw immediately was a talented, football player.
Yeah.
A kid that could do it all, man. He could run, he could catch, he could throw. He was a kid that he was small at the time. I think Deion might have been 160 pounds soaking wet back then. But man, he had grit. And when we got to Florida State, he just took off. I mean, he got there, man, and he knew what he wanted to do, knew what he had to do to be successful, and he went about his business, man. He's one of the hardest workers I ever seen, and
He's hungry.
he was hungry. He had a plan. He had his why was probably a lot different than a lot of guys at the time. His why was, man, he wanted his mom to not never have to work again. Y'all hear him say that sometimes
All the time.
And so, from the time he stepped on the field, man, he was a difference maker. And great player.
So I heard you say y'all was the first Florida Georgia All-Star.
Mm-hmm.
And what year that was?
1985.
1985.
I don't even know how long they ran that game. They played that game,
Okay.
but we played in the first one.
Okay.
And I think Florida State, we probably had 10
10
or
of
12
those.
players that was going to Florida State. We even had a couple, 2 or 3, I think, off of Georgia's team that was coming to Florida State. I remember Michael Tanks was one that played for Georgia. He came to Florida State with us too. And yeah, we played in the first one, man, and we put it on Georgia that year too.
And they be talking about, who what state produced the best football players, and I think it was Cam Newton was talking about it. He was bragging on Georgia, this and that, but come on, man, Florida.
Yeah, I'd have to say Florida. I'd have to say Florida, man. We were well rounded. When I think about some of the guys that even just played during my era that came out of Florida, man, you talking Derek Thomas, a Hall of Famer, Deion. Man, we had so many. Look, Emmitt Smith. There's so many guys, and even after my era, like you say, when you go to talking about Edgerrin James, and Warren Sapp. We had Derek Brooks out of Florida. We got a lot of guys out of Florida, man. So we rate pretty high. Marvin Jones.
Who you said? Fred Taylor?
Fred Taylor.
Edgerrin James.
Man, you can
Ray Lewis.
Ray Lewis. You can just, you can go on and on and on and on.
It's crazy how history just make people, they don't even understand. Like, to me, Fred Taylor was the best football player I ever seen.
He was a great.
And like now when he's on the pivot, so people see him and they really don't know.
They don't know who he is.
They don't know.
Yeah.
Fred
New
Taylor.
Generation don't know.
They don't
That's
know.
what I'm saying.
But
like
our generation on,
yeah,
they know. They know what's going on.
I mean, I left out my man Peter Warwick. I mean,
there you go.
It's just so many to pull from. Yeah.
So like I was saying, Cam Newton, I remember on his podcast they was talking about the Georgia, Florida, where the best ball players come from. So one player, it's kind of both, but he's from Florida, Travis Hunter. And me and him played high school football with his daddy. So, he was kind of trying to claim him for Georgia, but it's like, nah, he from Florida.
He from Florida.
He
from Florida. He from right down here.
Yeah, so yeah, man, I thought that was that was kind of funny, but he did a good job with him once he got to Georgia with the flag football and being the mentor and all that type of stuff.
Yes.
So yeah,
but he was groomed here.
There you go. His roots, yeah. And like I always say on this podcast, his daddy, man, if you would have ever seen him play, everything he doing right now, we seen it already.
But we was talking about him this weekend at the family reunion.
At the family reunion, okay.
Of course, because you played with him.
Yeah,
right?
we both did.
Yeah.
Sammie, he was a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was.
Your granddaddy was talking about him.
Oh, he did too?
Yeah, we was talking about him this weekend.
Okay.
I think if the Travis Hunter Jr. had the speed that the daddy had, like a creative player.
Yes.
And it's funny you say that because it ain't like he's slow.
Yeah, because he don't get caught or anything, but I still,
But his daddy,
I don't feel like he's faster than his daddy.
Yeah.
I don't think so neither. But you know, he like you say, he ain't slow. He fast too, but he, you know, probably he had a different gear. Yeah, he had something else.
Yeah, well, Travis Hunter runs effortless.
There you go.
Man. I mean, ain't no telling how fast that kid be running.
Yeah.
I mean, he got to, I don't know what he tested, if he did any things at the combine, but
Nah, he ain't do nothing.
I mean,
Nah, he didn't.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No other man is like it. Y'all ain't seen, and I kind of like it too though. Like if y'all ain't
Ain't no
seen
need
each
to,
other,
yeah.
Yeah,
Y'all
absolutely.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
evidently it didn't hurt him. So,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
so
Absolutely.
now that does it change? I mean, I know going from college at that time. So this is another question I want to ask you still about college. How do you feel about the NIL now?
Well,
For it or you?
man, I mean, I'm for kids being able to get compensated for their skills. I just wish there would have been something more in place from the NCAA to pay the kids themselves because they make a whole lot of money.
Oh yeah.
As opposed to having to go and get collectives and all that that platform of paying the kids. And I think they're trying to get to that. For me now as a fan, it's tough because you enjoy your team, you want to root for your teams, and then you might have a kid that's outstanding for your football team this year, and then next year he playing for the rivalry, and so I think just the NIL and the transfer portal has made it kind of difficult, man, for the fans, to really get behind their teams and to stay excited about the season. Like right now, I was at Ole Miss for 7 years, man. And, I watched a kid and I'm happy for him. I watched a kid that was a great football player that was there when I was there. Quishon Judkins was a great running back in the SEC his first 2 years, and he leave and go to Ohio State, but he won a national championship.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't really, argue with that. But, as an Ole Miss fan, you would have loved to have seen him stay there because honestly, I think had Ole Miss had Quishon Judkins last year, they may make the playoffs and they may have a chance to win it all. And so, same thing with Florida State, man. I love Florida State, but right now, if you ask me, I can't even tell you who the running backs are.
Yeah.
And that's crazy, right? I can't tell you who the receivers are. That's crazy.
Yeah, it is.
And it's because of the changing of the
for us,
the kids.
I mean, we both Florida State fans, so I'm a Florida State fan. And for us, it's the quarters. I mean, you think about the last 2-3 years, you had different quarterbacks.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So we had a dud last year, so we ain't gonna count that year. That year don't count.
Yes. No, we can't count that one. but we got to back it up this year. We can't come back with that mess again, because if we come back with that mess again, then we got to count last year.
You got to count last year.
Then that wasn't a fluke.
And we got to get Norvell out of there.
I like Coach Norvell, man.
I like Norvell, but I feel like Taggart didn't get the same credit.
No, he didn't. But I think what's happening around the landscape of football is you're getting too dependent on the transfer portals. That's the one thing I don't like is, man, that you're not recruiting the kids out of high school that want to come play for your school, that have wanted and that's been their dream to come play for your school. Because if you get those kind of kids and you develop them, then the likelihood is that maybe you will probably have them there for 3 years or 4 years. You won't have to dip into that transfer portal so much. So that's the biggest thing, that issue that I have right now with, Florida State's program is I think the last couple, 2 or 3 years, we've gotten too dependent on the transfer portal as opposed to developing kids that can get out there and get it done.
Yeah. We it was last year sometime when we had Preston Parker, former Florida State player, and he spoke about Bobby Bowden, spoke very highly of him. So I wanted to ask you, what did he mean to you, Bobby Bowden?
Generational, and not just coach, But for me, generational as a mentor, as someone that was encouraging, um, and I say that outside of football.
Okay.
I say that because, I mean, if you know my story, man, I had some challenges. I made some choices that wasn't the best choices, and you know, a lot of times, man, people will not look at the character that you have. They look at what's going on at that time,
Gotcha.
you know, and not realizing that we all, you know, make
Oh
mistakes.
yeah.
So we all gonna fall short at
Everybody.
some
Yeah.
point. And so when you have someone like Coach Bowden, man, that was in the midst of all that, was always encouraging and uplifting, and I can't say enough about him. I can remember when I was trying to decide whether to go to Ole Miss as their character coach, you know, for the football program there, and to do ministry for the coaches and the players.
Okay.
And I consulted him because in my heart, I didn't feel like I was ready to go do that. And I consulted him and told him, you know, Coach, I got this opportunity. I don't really know that I'm, you know, ready to do it. You know, I said, my heart's kind of telling me, yeah, but, you know, my mind is, you know, kind of, I got questions. And he said something to me that was profound and something that I take with me every day now. He told me, he said, Sammie, God is not concerned with your ability. He's concerned with your availability.
Wow.
So if you got an opportunity, he's calling you to go do the work. He prepared you. Right,
Just
just
make sure you
make yourself
prepare.
available.
There you go.
All right, and he'll give you the ability that you need to be successful and to be able to mentor those coaches and mentor those young men. And so I use that a lot now. You know, I tell people when, you know, when I'm mentoring or talking to someone that's dealing with something or they having some decisions they need to make and they're not sure, and I always tell them, man, trust God, pray about it. Hey, you know, make yourself available.
Yeah.
You know, let God do the rest.
Even if you don't understand how it's gonna work out, and
yeah. But I love Coach Bowden, man. I mean, he was, you know, he was a big influence on my life, and I always like to say away from the football field.
Yeah.
Certainly, he was on the football field,
that's a given. Yeah.
But you know, when I think if a coach can be measured and be remembered by their players that they've coached away from the football field and away from the game, then that's the highest honor you can give a coach, man, is to say he impacted my life and it didn't have nothing to do with playing on the field.
Yeah.
You know, and hey, it's kind of hard and rare to find those in coaches now, but there's some out there.
It show you how much you really care. Like,
Absolutely.
of course, you want the best players to have a good football team and win games, but for him, like you said, to go outside of football, which really he not obligated to do that.
No, I can tell you something. I don't know how much time y'all got, but
Oh no, we got a lot of time.
let me show you, during one of the lowest points of my life, man. It was 1998. I was in Edgefield, South Carolina, at a federal camp, you know, doing time for, you know, a drug conspiracy. And I'm walking around the track, just getting my exercise, and I hear over the loudspeaker, Sammie Smith report to the warden's office, right? And I'm thinking to myself, man, why they calling me to the warden's office? Oh, Lord, man, what's going on now, right? I'm thinking the first thing come to my mind is they done did like a shakedown in the, you know, in the dorm or in the room where we were staying, and somebody done had some and then slipped it in my quarters, and now I'm finna get locked up, you know, for something that ain't supposed to be in there.
So you thinking the worst.
So I'm thinking the worst. And so as I'm walking there, when I walk into the building, I hear his name was Mr. McGinnis. He was our associate warden. He on the speakerphone. He talking and they laughing. And I hear these familiar voices. I'm like, man, I know this voice, right? Well, it's Coach Bowden and it's Jim Gladden, who recruited me at Florida State. And they wanted to know if I would record a message to the '98 football team, which was Peter Warwick and those guys.
Wow.
They had some kind of little scandal going on.
Wow.
Free Shoes University. That's what
I remember that.
Steve Spurrier coined that term, Free Shoes University.
Yeah.
But they wanted to know if I would record just a message to the team and the coaches, and I agreed to do it, you know, on VHS. That's how long ago that's been. But I never forget, man. I walked into that building kind of downtrodden and pity, but I left there feeling uplifted because there I was in federal prison. I got coaches.
You pick me.
Yeah, I got coaches that see some value, even where I'm at. They see value in, you know, what I had to add to that program and into the team. And so, man, that left me with a feeling of, you know what, no matter where you are, no matter what mistakes you've made, right, no matter what roads you've gone down that may have not been the best roads, if you're willing, God can use you.
Oh yeah.
Right? He can use that situation, man, to be a blessing to others. And I tell y'all, man, I've seen so many times, like the ups and downs that I went through all those years back, how they've been a blessing to folks when I get to share it. That's why I tell y'all ain't nothing off limits. We talk about anything.
Open book.
So now, how does because I know you said when you got the chance to go to Ole Miss to be the coach, how does a person that achieved as much as you achieved and had the success be nervous about a situation like that? Like, to me, that would be something that would be easy compared to coming from where you came from. I mean, first round pick and playing at Florida State, playing with Coach Bowden, and now it's my chance to pour into some young men, be a leader of men, right? And I'm like, how does a guy like you?
Well, it's a difference. It's different than putting on the suit and putting on the helmet and
That's
going
easy.
playing.
That's easy.
You know, something that you've been doing, but now you got an opportunity to do ministry. You know, and I was working for the Fellowship of Christian Athletes locally, and I had a business there that I opened that was called Kingdom Impact Sports, where I used to train kids. We had all kind of agility stuff there and weights and conditioning things, but that was just my target to get them in. But I really wanted to pour into them spiritually and, you know, share some of my experience with them, be a mentor for them. And so now getting that opportunity to go and do that on a college level with, you know, with grown, you know, coaches that get paid $4-5 million a year. And then you got athletes, you know, it's a little different than dealing with kids. But I just, at the time, was questioning, am I ready to do this? And like I said, you know, it took Coach Bowden telling me that God has prepared you. You know, just make yourself available. And he was so right. I mean, all I had to do was just show up and let him show out. And man, what a blessing it was to be able to pour in you know, the last one I had there was Coach Kiffin. I had him for 3 years, and I had Coach Kiffin for his first 3 years at Ole Miss, and man, just to see the transformation that's happened in his life, and a lot of people wouldn't even know, but man, he's had some transformational things happen in his life, and I happen to be there to be a part of that. You know, to see a guy that now I think it's probably 6 years that he ain't had a drink. And he talks about that.
He was low. I mean, it was low to where for him, for Lane Kiffin, to have to go to FAU. That was like a low point. So I just, and I like Lane because Lane the man, Lane dialed it up. You know what I'm saying? And I'm I'm an offensive guy, so you know, Lane dialed it up. Then going over there to Ole Miss, it was. You had the receiver from the Eagles, right? Was there too, right?
Yeah, well, we had
what's the big receiver?
We had
AJ Brown.
we had AJ Brown and
DK
Metcalf, but Lane didn't have them though.
Oh,
they were gone. The year that Lane came was the year I believe that they were leaving. He might have been gone before that. I think so because we had Elijah Moore.
Well, yeah, he was nice too.
Yeah, but no, he didn't get to coach DK and AJ. But I had those kids there. I had them there as freshmen.
Freshman.
Yeah.
So how that make you feel to see, you know, from the time they was a freshman to what they doing now in the NFL?
Man, I was just so excited for them because those kids came and they participated in like the FCA stuff that I did. AJ was there, you know, religiously, man, coming to you know, the meetings that we had. We had our own worship service because, you know, on Sundays, if you just played a game on Saturday or if you've been traveling on Saturday playing a game and you coming back early Sunday morning, getting back in town, it's hard for guys to get up and talk about going to church because they got meetings, you know, that start at 12, treatment and all of that. And so, and so I was fortunate enough, me and my wife, to be able to kind of start and keep running a Sunday worship service that we did in our team meeting room.
Wow.
And that was huge because now the guys had to be over there anyway coming in for treatment, and we would do it like from 11 to 12, and then they'd have lunch, and then they got meetings. So we made that available to them. And, AJ and DK, they were there. Elijah Moore was one of my solid ones, man. He was there all the time. And we even had alumni that start coming into the service. So it was some fun times, man.
So seeing stuff like that and then just hearing that, then you look at your success, at their success. It's like this stuff ain't by accident.
Mm-hmm.
Like these were seeds that was planted. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So they now being in the NFL, like I'm harvesting some of these.
Yeah.
Because it's a bunch it's a bunch of college kids that ain't coming to no worship service.
No, it's a bunch that's not. Yeah.
Be religiously coming.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's a shout out for a lot of athletes.
Yeah.
You gotta believe in something.
And the parents too. Now I can tell you, AJ, his dad was solid, man, and DK Metcalf's dad and mom, they were solid people. That they poured into those kids. So I don't take no credit. They were kids that came made, and all I was able to do was be able to be a part of, hopefully helping them transition
to add to,
yeah.
I understand. And I'm a person like this too. Like I grew up in the church too, but and sometimes you dreaded going to church.
Mm-hmm.
But when that one guy was going to speak that I wanted to hear, I ain't care. I came to church.
You was going. Absolutely.
So now when I got a guy that's on the mic every time that I want to hear, I don't have no problem going.
Absolutely.
So you don't take credit for what they, the foundation that they put in, but they definitely like to hear what you had to say.
Absolutely.
What's going on? So you can take credit and feel good in that, because I can testify. I was in church every time church opened.
Yes.
And I ain't care to go every time, be real. But when I knew my guy was on that day, I was ready.
Yep. Now there's a mandate, right? What comes there's a mandate that comes with that, right?
What's the mandate?
I'm sure you done heard a lot of good word from those guys you want to hear. You responsible for sharing that with other people too now.
I think I do. And, I do, and I got some little kids. So I throw a couple of nuggets in.
Yes.
Some other men that I deal with, I throw a couple of nuggets. But I ain't, my wife even say I'll be running from it. But I done heard some good stuff.
I ran too, man. But I'm going to tell you something, and I tell people this all the time too. I knew God had a calling on my life, right? And I would be running from it, like you just said. And, I knew he wanted me to be doing something different. Even when I was going through all that difficult time, I knew God had something else for me to be doing.
So did you start feeling guilty?
I wouldn't say I started feeling guilty, man. What I say is I'm thankful that while I was running 100 miles away trying to go the other way, that God was running 102. he was staying right ahead of me, right? And he was there for me, man, when I needed him most. At my lowest point in time, man, that he never gave up on me, so.
So you had the time, so we would fast forward. You play at Miami.
Like I said, we done skipped over. We went all over.
So play at Miami. Do you find the success that you was looking for in the NFL?
I think it started off. I was going that way, and I was feeling like, man, we had something, good that was brewing in Miami. And then, I hit a rough time. I hit a rough patch there. And again, I go back. I know the game was the Kansas City game in 1991. I had was coming off of my third year. That was my third season in the league. And that off season, man, I had trained. I was ready to go. I wanted to have a big year, and I was primed to have a big year. And we were playing in a preseason game down in Tampa, and I got hit in the knee, and I sprained my knee, and I was out for the rest of the preseason. So I think that preseason game might have been the first one. So for the next 3 weeks, I'm on a bike. I'm trying to get healthy. I'm not a part of camp. I'm not a part of getting ready to play in full game situations. I'm not a part of pre-games, the pre-games that we played.
Instead of preparing, you recovering.
Yeah, I'm recovering. And then so I'll never forget that first game back. It was Kansas City. And I had just came to practice like 2 or 3 days that week.
Yeah.
And I never forget my coach Carl Tassif was my running back coach, and Coach Schuler. They said, we're not going to play you much. We know you're not in shape and you're really not game ready. Say, but we're going to get your feet wet, right? And they say, if you get tired and you need to come out of the game when we got you in there, just look to the sideline and motion and come on off the field. We'll send Mark Higgs in. And so I never forget when I went in for a series, it was like 3 or 4 runs back to back that I got first downs. But now I'm tired, right? So I started walking off the field, and Coach Schuler said,
No, you doing
no, you stay in there, right? And I went back to the huddle, and I'm leaning down, and Dan said, Sammie, you all right? I said, Dan, I'm tired, man. He said, well, get out of here, man, and get Higgs in. I say, I tried, but Coach Schuler wanted me to stay in, right? So the game plan changed from we're going to just use you sparingly. No, I got a hot running back. I'm going to run this joker into shape.
Yeah.
But a couple of plays later, man, I had a fumble. And it was nothing wrong with the handoff. It was just a regular dive play that I didn't secure the ball right. You know, and it comes from repetition. That comes from, you know, training and you know, it comes from being in camp. And I fumbled the ball. They returned it for a touchdown. I don't even remember that. When it happened, I didn't remember that happened. I walked off the sideline and Tony Page will tell you this. I sat down next to him and I said, Tony, what just happened? He said, man, you fumbled, Sammie. They picked the ball up and ran it for a touchdown. I said, you kidding? And he called the trainers then to come and give me smelling salt.
You knew something was wrong.
You know, and he knew something wasn't right. They kind of waking me up, and then I go back in and play some more. A couple of times he'll tell you that we broke the huddle. And I would be back there in the eye, and I done forgot what the play is. You know what I mean? I have to go up and ask him, Tony, what's the play? You know, I don't remember that. But like I say, we would see in the film that I had my head banged the turf a couple of times on some of those runs, and I was dealing with a concussion. So I think I done got off from what your question was, but I think, you know, I really expected to have a big year that year, man. But like I said, you know, those first couple of games, just it wasn't in the cards. Yeah. And so I believe I was talented enough to have a 10, 12-year career. I believe I was talented enough to be a Hall of Fame player. But those 2 games that I played concussed didn't afford me the opportunity to live that dream out.
And I mean, we done seen this from a lot of players.
Mhm.
Players who, like yourself, was great in high school,
Mhm.
college, and then, like you say, injuries or, you know, other things. Not your talent. Like we all know you was talented enough.
Mhm.
You know that, but you know sometimes it just don't work out.
Yep,
Whether it's
absolutely.
injuries or whatever the case may be. And so I know for you at the time it was hard to accept that, you know.
It was hard because, man, you put your life into something. You love it,
And
right?
knowing the confidence you have in yourself.
You know you love it. I mean, have been running track and playing football all my
All
life.
your life, yes.
You know, and to be able to not be confident in getting out there and playing the same way you played, it was tough, man, because, you know, you just wondering like to yourself, like what's going on? You know, why can't I get this little train going the way it used to
making
be?
sense.
It don't make sense. But you know, it ain't for us to make sense, man. God got all the sense, right? He got a plan, and his plan gonna play out however it needs to play out.
So how was it playing with Marino? I mean, I know it was only a couple of years, but how was it playing with Dan Marino?
Dan was the man. Dan was a great teammate. Y'all know his exploits, man. He could throw that ball between a hoop, and just a phenomenal player, man. He had one of the fastest release. He was accurate. He wasn't gonna scramble now, you know. But just a great football player, man. And I got blessed to play with Elway for a year when I went to Denver, and so 2 totally different players, but two champions, man, 2 winners. You know, they just had different style of playing, but both of them had rockets for arms.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Elway was a little more.
Yeah, Elway could get out of that pocket now and run and pick you up your 10, 20 yards, you know.
Right.
And he didn't mind, lowering that shoulder. Dad didn't want to lower that
He ain't
shoulder.
on none of that.
I can remember coming back to the huddle. If Dan messed around and got sacked, Dan be looking at them linemen like, hey, man, guys, y'all gonna show up today? Y'all come to play today? What's going on?
Yeah.
And Elway was different. Elway, like I said, he could get out of that pocket. And Elway, if he got sacked, you know what I'm saying, he'd probably come back and, hey, let's go, guys. Dan was like, man, y'all got to do y'all job.
I'm trying to do mine.
That's funny.
Oh, great times, man. That was a lot of fun. Mm-hmm.
I got somebody told me a story, man.
Mm-hmm.
I need to, ask you if this true or not.
Fact check, yo.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
So I heard a story about when you was like 10 or 11 years old, and they say you went to a pool down there in Derry.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Who told you that, man? How they can remember that for?
Your mama told me.
Yep. I used to come down to Uncle Bit every summer. I love coming to Delray, man, and just being able to stay at Bit's house to get out of that country and be able to see some nice girls and stuff and my cousins and stuff. And I'll never forget, we went to that pool. It was a little city pool.
What pool was it?
It was somewhere.
Was it Pompey? Was it Pompey?
It might have been.
Or Aqua
I can't remember. It might have been Pompey.
It got to be Aqua Quest or Pompey.
I
Pompey.
think it might have been Pompey.
Okay.
But we went to that pool, and I'll never forget. I don't know who it was. Told me it might have been Bit. Said, "Now, if you can't swim, now don't be going out there in that deep water or something, right?" I get my butt up on the diving board and dive in. And boy, I ain't touched no bottom. I dove in that water and I wasn't no bottom down there, right? Man, they had to come and get me. The lifeguard came and get me. I was so embarrassed. The lifeguard got me out of there. He said, son, you need to stay on that end.
Stay where you can stand up.
Stay down there on that end, huh? I'm the new kid in town. I'm trying to impress all the little girls. And I just got shamed, man. You got to stay down there. You can't swim.
You gotta do whatever you gotta do to get the ladies. We already established that on this podcast. We gotta do what we gotta do to get the ladies.
And there you go. Oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
You know what she told me to ask you too, right?
What's that?
She said, well, she didn't say ask you. She said, you know what? I still don't know to this day if you know how to swim. So you need to ask him, do you know how to swim?
I can swim good enough to save myself.
Okay.
If I'm in a lake.
Okay.
If it's not too far. And I go fishing all the time.
That's why
I fish all the time, but I do keep my life jacket.
Okay.
Right there. So if if that boat going down, that life jacket gonna be on. But I think about that sometimes because I go offshore with friends and man, we go 50 miles out.
Deep out there.
Way out there. We can't swallow all that water.
Yeah, you man.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, you gotta wear that life preserver, man.
And she said that. She said, he like to take us out there fishing. I need to know this joker know how to swim.
No, I can swim now. I can't save nobody.
Okay.
I'm not going to even tell you I can swim good enough like I'm a lifeguard to save nobody.
But you got the life jackets.
But the life jacket's on there. I advise you to have one on or at least know where it's at. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, man. We had a good laugh, man. So where do y'all go when you fish and everything? Like what areas?
Being that I live in Lake County, we got the Harris chain of lakes there.
Okay.
And so I can leave my house, man, in 5 minutes. I can be putting in Lake Dora, which is downtown Mount Dora, beautiful area, man. And I can put in right there and go to the whole chain of lakes. We got Lake Apopka, we got Lake Beauclair, Lake Carlton, Lake Eustis, Lake Harris, all that chain.
Gotcha.
I can get to, and that's probably one of the best fishing chains in Florida. A lot of people love to come fish there, like tournaments and stuff on the Harris chain.
Okay.
That's, if not, probably one of the best chains to fish. I think Okeechobee is pretty good, but I think a lot of people are kind of biased to the Harris chain where I live at.
Okay.
Okeechobee is just so huge.
Yeah.
That one body, but there's so many different little.
Yeah, that's what he was just talking about. Yeah.
They do tournaments in that too.
Yeah, that's one of the things with FCA Outdoors that I do for the state of Florida. I kind of head up the outdoors division for the Fellowship of Christian Athletes, and that's really just like the non-traditional sports. For so long, we try to um, reach the football players and the baseball and track and field guys, and we for so long didn't think about that. There's so many kids that love to fish and hunt, equestrian, and so the low-hanging fruit for me is the fishing.
Yeah.
I try to get kids involved in fishing tournaments and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Man, that's one thing I never learned how to do. I don't know about you.
You don't know how to fish?
No, I don't know how to fish, bro.
Oh
I go out there and watch it. You know what I'm saying?
Well, man, how y'all guys
in
live
South
down
Florida,
here?
bro.
All this water, you're close to Okeechobee, and you don't know how to fish.
Ain't nobody ever teach me.
Huh?
Like, when I used to go with them, I used to watch, and I never caught a fish.
Well, when you come down my way,
Okay.
we'll make it a point to take you out, take you fish. We'll take you fishing. Yeah, it's hot now. I don't really do too much fishing right now because it's so hot. But
too hot, yeah.
I love doing speck fishing, crappie fishing, and that's more like a springtime fishing. It's cool. I got a couple nice spots, man. I go out there at night, turn my lights on the water, and just crappie out the crappie. Yeah.
See, that's one thing. I never fished at night.
Mm-hmm.
So who taught you how to fish?
Well, we got the main fisherman in the family is Waddell.
Okay.
Uncle Waddell fishes every day
if
he can, except Sundays.
Okay.
And my dad used to take me and my brothers, when we were younger. We had the cane poles back then. Mm-hmm. So I learned how to fish using the cane poles.
I remember Grandma Nell.
Grandma Nell loved the cane poles.
Yeah.
And so, but now I done stepped it up. I got the open face and the bait casters and all that stuff. Yeah.
Bait casters, once you learn how to use them, pretty nice.
Yeah.
We speaking the language.
No.
You see what I'm just saying? Yeah. Gotta act like I know what y'all talking about.
Yes.
Yeah, man.
That's pretty cool. So now we, after the Dolphins, like you said, you had some troubles. How did it happen?
Well, I think what happens is, man, and I can tell you, when I left Denver and I came home with a career-ending injury from there, God blessed me to be able to even collect like on my Lord's of London policy. And I came home with great intentions, man. I started like a building company, a residential home building company. I wanted to build homes in the neighborhood and help families get in that otherwise couldn't afford homes or maybe didn't have the credit, and I get them set up and get them in the house and, get them opportunity to get the credit straight and buy the house later,
Mm-hmm.
And so I had good intentions, and I came home and, the area that I was in, my little community was kind of known for drugs. And I had been the one all through college and even when I was in pro, kind of telling guys to say no, telling kids. And what I found was, man, when I left the game, now I don't really have that camaraderie. The guys, I don't really have those goals that I'm pursuing. And I just got caught up with, old friends that was involved in that line of, I ain't gonna call it work, but that line of foolishness. And I found myself indulging, getting engaged in it, man. And never in a million years would I have been able to see that and know that I would be involved in something like that. But I think if you don't have, a purpose and you don't have like drive for something, then you open up the door for negative stuff to come in, and the enemy don't want to see you doing nothing positive. I had positive thoughts of doing things in my community, but the enemy didn't want that, and I opened the door and allowed that in. And within 10 months, I was getting arrested, man, for being a part of a conspiracy. And I tell people though, I don't wish nothing like that on nobody. I wish I didn't have to go through that. But at the same time, it was probably one of the best things that happened to me, man, because I think in the midst of all of that, I really found I was tested. I really found like the character that I had in me. I really found like the purpose that God had on my life. I really found to know what it means to surrender, right? To allow God to use that situation. And man, I give God all the praise because, you know, I'm able to now go and talk about those things. I wrote a book. I wish I'd have thought about it. I'd have brought
Brought
y'all
the
a
book,
couple of
yeah,
my books
yeah,
and give them to you. But
yeah.
you know, everything that I've gone through, man, is on the other side of it has been a blessing for other people. And that's what it's all about, man. When we go through things, um, it's for us to learn, right? But it's for us to really figure out how can I allow God to use this situation to bless this brother, all right, or to bless this sister. And it has been a blessing, man.
And it might sound crazy to some people for you to say that's the best thing that happened to me. It's like,
It
you
sounded
know,
crazy
it's
to
like
me when I
how
heard
me
it.
going to prison was the best thing that happened to me. But like you say, you allow God to use you,
Yeah.
and
Couldn't run no
you
more.
wouldn't be the person you is today
I wouldn't.
without that
I
experience.
wouldn't. And honestly, had I not gone through what I gone through and God would have just let me hang on out there, I could have been dead. Right? Anything could have happened out there when you living in that lifestyle, man. I could have been dead. I could have lost everything. You know what I mean? I couldn't have had no direction. I could have wound up using drugs, which I've never done. You know, anything could have happened. So the best thing that happened to me was to get caught in that little time that I was involved, and to have to deal with going to prison, but at the same time, man, finding purpose and finding what God wanted me to do, you know, with my life.
And that
Yeah.
also says a lot about you because you embraced it, and like you say,
Mhm.
you used it. What is the lesson in this? What could I teach somebody else?
Mhm.
Because some people could do them years, get out, and do the same thing all over
Yeah.
again. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But
Mhm. Well, I enjoyed my family more than that, man. I had a lot more to lose than to get involved in foolishness again, man. I had a daughter that was 8. I think Janae turned 8 when I got caught and went to prison. That was, when I got out, was a teenager, getting ready to graduate. So I still had a chance to have a few years of her high school, to pour into her. So I had a lot more to live for, man. And that's one of the things when I got a chance to go back to the facility where I started at was FCI Coleman up in Sumter County, Florida, which was close to my home. I was able to go back there and speak to a bunch of guys that was in this reentry program. A lot of these guys were getting ready to get out, within the next year or two at the time when I went back. And I think just being able to go in, and some of these guys were there with me, I remember some of them.
Dang.
And to be able to say, man, look what God did. If I can do it,
You can do it.
man, you can get out. You have an opportunity to grab your life back, man, and get your life on track. You don't have to come back here. If he did it for me, he can do it for you,
That's the
And I
truth.
think that we should be willing, when you've gone through anything in life, man, that you've been tested in, man, you should be willing to share that with
Oh yeah.
people. I was down in, this how God worked. I was down in Miami in 2014, I think it was. It was after the 2013 FSU season. I had been speaking at bowl games for like 3 or 4 years prior. I had spoke at like the Capital One Bowl. I think Alabama and Michigan was there. I had spoke at the Outback Bowl in Tampa with Georgia, and I can't remember who they was playing, but I spoke at the Gator Bowl. I think it was Ohio State and Florida. I was the guest speaker at their breakfast. And I always was asking myself, well, man, when I'm going to have a chance to speak at a bowl game where Florida State at, right? And this particular year, I got asked to come to the Orange Bowl. And that's how God tests you. I didn't want to go. You see, I had never really like gotten over like my time in Miami, had never really forgiven the fans. I ain't want to go. And I told the guy that asked me to come, he was the FCA staff. I said, man, I ain't sure I can come. And I said, I have to get back with you. When I hung up the phone, God spoke to me and said, now why you ain't tell the man the truth? You free. you can go down there and
Yeah.
share, right?
Yeah.
So I called him back and I said, man, I'm good. I'll come down and do it. I didn't want to, flesh didn't want to, but I came down there, man, and it was probably 1,000 people at that breakfast. And I shared from my heart. I shared about my time down in Miami. I shared about losing my son to SIDS. And it was this one particular couple that, a line of people when I was done was wanting to come and talk to me. A lot of them were Miami Dolphin fans that were coming up with tears in their eyes. And man, we didn't know how impactful that was that day when, we was chanting, Sammie sucks and all that, right? And we didn't know the impact that had on you. And so I was able to forgive those people. They was able to receive forgiveness. But this one couple kept getting to the back. Every time they get close enough, they wanted to be the last ones talk to me. They had just lost a baby to SIDS. And they wanted to know, how did I get through that? How did I was able to navigate through, losing a 2-month-old baby?
Right.
And I didn't have the answer, man, until that moment when they asked me. Because I had been dealing with that for years. God, why you took my son? Why you took my son? And now here these people is asking me, and what can I tell them? Only thing I could tell them, what God gave me at that time. Was your son any better than mine? My son willingly gave his life so that you can have an opportunity to have and be in a right relationship with the Father.
Wow.
And I told them that, and I said, this is the answer I'm gonna give y'all, because I just got it. I said, the same question y'all just asked me, I've been asking myself for 20 years. And I say, y'all gonna be able to share y'all grief and y'all loss with somebody else. Y'all gonna be impactful.
Wow.
And that touched those people, man. They were crying and I was crying, because God just answered a question they asked me. He answered it for me.
And
I've been asking for 20 some
and if
years.
you never went to that game because you almost
if
didn't.
I didn't go,
and you almost backed out.
Yep, and it felt so rewarding, man, really, to go and do that. But that's what God does, man. When he challenges you, right, and he nudges you, man, go do it.
Yeah.
Whatever he's telling you to do, go do it.
Do it.
Yeah.
Dang.
Yeah.
That's,
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's deep, though.
That's
man.
awesome. That's a testimony in itself.
Yes.
And a lot of people, when they go through things in life, is like, you want to know the answer right away.
Yeah.
And rightfully so. It's like,
Instant
what's going on?
gratification.
You confused, but like you say, when you least expect it, you gonna get your answer.
Well, I've been praying. I got to speak in a few weeks at a I think it's a pastor, a church anniversary service I was asked to speak at. And I always ask God, what you got for me? What you want me to share, right? And I was just kind of daydreaming the other day, man. And if you know the story of the prodigal son, right? The prodigal son is when he wanted all his stuff early.
Okay.
I don't want to wait for you to die, Dad. I want my issue now, right? And so he got his. And man, he went out and he splurged and spent all his his money and stuff on lavish living, and now he ain't have nothing, right? He was eating food that he was saying some of his family's workers ate better. He was eating stuff like for the pigs.
Wow.
And he finally built it up in himself. I got to go home, right? I got to face it. And when he started heading home, man, his daddy saw him, right? And he ran to meet him. He was so excited that his son was coming home, right? And you know what that's a parable? That parable is that, man, no matter where we've been or what we've been through, the mistakes that we've made, right? Our Heavenly Father is just right there, man, waiting with open arms. He running to us and wanting us to come home, right? But the flip side of that is, and this is what God gave me the other day, that as I was just pondering, the flip side of that is, are we willing for that to be a reciprocal thing?
Are we gonna be running towards him?
If you had a mom or a dad that maybe didn't do everything that they were supposed to do for you, right? And you had resentment in them because they didn't provide or they weren't there, right? Are you gonna go with open arms and run to them and love them, right? And accept them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it's a reciprocal thing. You really only look at what the father did for the son,
Mm-hmm.
but as a son, right? If I got anything that I regret or any people like the same thing I was just telling you with, I didn't want to go to Miami,
Yeah.
right? When I went there with an open heart, man, and I was able to like forgive and be blessed and to love on those people and, you know, to give them an opportunity to say I'm sorry, the few that was there, that was in those stands that day. And so there's a great lesson to that, man. You know, when we spend time and we read those parables and stuff, man, it's always a flip side, you know.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Because his brothers didn't like.
Now his brother didn't like
They
that.
didn't like that. He
Yeah.
got the
His brother didn't like that. His brother was hot.
Because he had they feel like he had every reason to deny
Yeah,
him.
his brother didn't like that, man.
Yeah.
That you gonna go kill the fatted cow. You gonna kill the fatted cow and we gonna finna feed this joker like the best meat.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I've been here working and slaving the whole time he been gone.
And he,
You know, so his brother got to deal with that too. His brother got to be able to, you know, give that same love and that God has given us. So that's a challenge to us too, man. Is that, you know, we got to be able to open the door to forgiveness and be able to forgive people and move on and embrace folks that maybe, you know, the world say we shouldn't embrace.
I don't know. I think I'm pretty good at that. Like I seen, I think it was Lil Duval or somebody. They, he tweeted something out saying about like, you know how some people hold grudges but he was saying like he don't know how to do that. Like he'll let things go so quick, and it kind of made me think about myself. It's like, you know, if it ain't nothing too serious, and you know, it's like I don't know how to stay mad, like on, cause you know that take energy
Take
to
effort.
hold.
Yeah.
I don't know how to do that. Once I go to sleep and wake up, it's like, man, I ain't even thinking about.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So,
And that's
I kind of felt that.
That's a good thing to have because at the end of the day, you save yourself a lot of stress and heartache, and that person ain't even concerned with it. That person going on about their business. You mad and stressed all out, and they moving on.
Exactly.
You know, so
you gotta be the guard holding them in prison in your head.
And you using all that energy to stay mad, you ain't no
Yes.
better focus on nothing else.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so
Absolutely.
yeah, man.
Yes, man.
You know, I mean, I ain't gonna say I'm like that. Gonna hold grudges, but I don't know. I think I handle people where they at.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, I'm not. I always tell you, I don't give nobody the benefit of the doubt.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you, in my mind, if you conscious, you got enough sense, you got common sense. It's hard to give you the benefit of the doubt because I feel like you know what you was doing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, if you in a place to where you just out of your mind and something happened, then I expect that.
Mm-hmm.
Most people know what they be doing.
But it's a difference between, you know, you not dealing with them at the time versus you just being angry at them and you just, you know what I'm saying?
No, I mean, maybe I'm good at it, but I ain't gotta be mad to not deal with you.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
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 I ain't gotta be upset, but
Okay.
I definitely understand what he's saying, and in my mind is playing some situations that was I reciprocating that energy, and I know I wasn't.
Yeah. I feel
You know what I'm saying? So it's all about identifying. Like you, hey, my name is Pernell and I'm an alcoholic. Like, I admitted it. I recognize it. I realized it. Like, yeah, sometimes in my head where I did not run towards them and didn't care nothing about how they felt.
And that's normal. That's the fleshly side of us.
We
right?
human.
We human, but when you are connected to the vine, the vine will prompt you to have forgiveness. Because man, Lord knows He done forgave me for so much, right? Stuff that I knew I was doing wasn't right, and He want us to have that same heart. You know what I mean? That okay, I know this person didn't do me right. He did wrong. He was dead wrong for that, right? But I gotta find some kind of way to navigate within my mind and within my being to be able to say, man, I got to move on. I got to forgive this brother. I got to love this brother because that's what God requires me to do. It's hard. Now, sometimes it's hard, but, we're able to do anything with his help. We can do nothing in our own strength.
And I think also too, like you said, we all done did wrong and fell short, and ask God for forgiveness. But it shouldn't mean that you should hold on to that guilt. Once you ask for forgiveness, you did wrong, but at some point you got to move on.
You got to move on.
It's like you shouldn't feel guilty for the rest of your life for something,
Yeah,
something
man, we done turned this into a ministry podcast. Somebody will get blessed.
Yeah.
Somebody needs to hear those things, man. Somebody needs to be released.
Exactly. I mean, just hearing your story, because I remember when he first told me about you, and I'm like, dang, my mind thinking how you go from where you were to like that's the bottom.
Yep,
Like,
that's
it
the
ain't
bottom.
nowhere to be like you said, you was running, you can't run now.
Can't run. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it definitely was intriguing. So when the opportunity to get you on here was like, we gotta make it happen.
Yeah.
I was definitely intrigued because he know growing up, Prime was my favorite player.
That's my guy, man.
And I'm like, this guy was with him. Like, you know what I mean? So and then, I'm all right with Jabo. We got a little beef.
Yeah.
So definitely somebody that, been to that level and walked the same streets we walked.
Yeah.
And been there, you know what I mean? So it's like it's easy for us to look up to people that we've never met before. You probably never meet, but somebody that you can hold to a high standard that been there and did what you've done, and I mean went further than you could imagine to go, because that's all, like you said, you picked up that football in Florida, you felt like you was going to the league. So at least that was your goal. So to get to get poured into by somebody that's been there, that made some mistakes, and so I definitely appreciate having you on, and I feel like you owe us a fishing trip after this.
Hey, man, y'all welcome to come fishing anytime.
Okay.
My boat had the cover over it for about a month now. Matter of fact, I just started it a couple of days ago.
Keep it on. Just keep it
I'm
on.
like, I got to get this thing in the water, man. It ain't doing no good sitting up here. So whenever y'all want to come down and go fishing, man, y'all more than welcome to come down. I'll take y'all out. Let Pooh catch his first fish.
You know what I'm saying? Y'all got to get that on camera too, bro. Get that on camera. Hey, I'm just being real.
Not even with the cane pole.
I ain't never caught no fish. I done recorded everybody catching fish. You know what I'm saying?
And we'll probably take him bass fishing, and he'll probably be the one catch the 10-pounder.
I used to be like, my granddad would take us. He used to give me and my cousin Derek. We was the worst two at the time. We would get the cane pole. We had to share though. Everybody else got their own pole. So we was at the Everglades. I remember he was telling us, listen, if you catch a fish, take it out the water and hold it up. We got gators and stuff like that. So, no, we just out there. We got one. We ain't never getting none, but we finally got one. And we just letting it drag it on the ground. But we hold it to, hey, Granddad, we got a fish. But the alligator coming to get the fish.
Oh, yeah.
Nah, we scared to just drop the pole. He mad that we lost the pole.
Oh, yeah.
Dang.
Ain't care nothing about. You know what I mean?
Nah, I feel worried about that pole.
He wanted the pole, man. You lose that pole, you lose the opportunity to catch fish.
Yeah, so we got to go sit in the truck for the rest of the trip.
Oh, yeah.
You just let the window down.
Yeah, I don't blame him. Boy, I'd have sent y'all to that. You know what I'm saying?
Good time. Nah, I'm almost a pro now.
Yeah,
okay.
Get that Travis on the Junior Deion. Y'all want it, y'all can get it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I got one last question. I don't know about you.
Go ahead, brother.
So my last question is, what is I don't know, maybe it's more than one thing, but is it one single thing that you're the most proud of that you accomplished, in your life?
Well, I talked about losing a son. which was a difficult time for me and my wife at the time. But if I have to say one of the most proudest things I'm probably proud of is the opportunity that God gave me to raise 2 daughters
Okay.
and another son.
Mhm.
You know, and they're all successful. You know, Janae,
Oh yeah.
she the one that, you know, I was gone. You know, I never forget. I celebrated a birthday with her. I think it was on like a Saturday, if I recall. And the next Thursday, I was getting arrested.
Mm.
And so to see her go through all of that, her dad being gone, man, for about 7 years, and all that comes with that, and to be successful and to go in to get her CRNA, you know, she's a nurse anesthetist. I'm proud of her. I'm proud of that, right? Um, I'm proud of my son, who was 1 year old when I met my wife. You know, I don't like to say stepson. My son,
Mm-hmm.
that I got a chance, even after losing a son to SIDS, to now God blessed me
Gave
some
me
years
one
later
back.
with another one, and to see him, you know, go through life, man, and to get a mechanical engineering degree from Ole Miss, and he's getting married in October now, and you know,
Okay.
and he's done so well for himself. And then my baby girl just graduated high school, and she got a full ride. She wants to get into nursing too. She's got a full ride to Advent Health University there in Orlando. And so, if I would say the most proudest thing I am is of my kids, man, and how in the midst of all the stuff that I went through, that God still kept me in my right frame of mind to be I hope, a great dad.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my kids tell me you're a great dad. And I think that that's one of the most highest honors as a father you can have, man, is to see your kids succeed. And so I can't think of nothing else other than that, that I would say I'm most proud of, man, is the development of my children.
Yeah, I figured you would say
Mm-hmm.
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, we all know I'm a great dad.
Hey, I gotta ask your daughter that question. Yeah, let's see.
I'm the best dad she ever had, I guarantee you.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, number one.
She ain't had no choice.
Hey, look at that.
There you go.
By default.
Well, I
Yes.
tell you.
Man, Mr. Smith, it's been a great episode. We love having you on.
No, man, I appreciate y'all.
You definitely
Yeah.
poured into us. Well, I know into me. I don't know what, he light skinned. I don't know. But I definitely received everything, and I think it was divine.
Yeah, no, thank y'all for having me, man. I was glad to be able to, you know, passing through to be able to make this happen tonight, and be able to. I told my cousin several months ago during a sad occasion.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was down here for a funeral, and he had asked me about being on the podcast. I told him absolutely, and saw his mom this weekend at the family reunion, and she mentioned it again. I'm like, hey, I'm gonna be down that way for a couple of days. I got to go down south. You know, let Pooh know. Let Pooh know that maybe we can make it happen. And so, yeah, yeah. So, yeah. So, thank y'all for having me on the show.
Nah, no problem. And we definitely gonna take you up on that fishing trip
Okay.
too. Yeah.
Okay.
Catch that fish, man.
All right, brother. Well, he don't know.
Thank y'all.
Got it.
No problem. It was great.
Well, I don't know how I'm gonna make it.